But Charles, where does that take us?
It takes us to the recurring theme, the theoretical construct in the UK at least of geoengineering, which we've been talking about for a long time now. And since the last COP meeting last year, it's been pushed further and further towards the front of the queue. And now the BBC has taken it up. So we'll talk in a bit about the apparent, or at least the science that's put forward, but also the language that's being used. And I've highlighted the text there, or at least put a box around conspiracy theories swirl about geoengineering, but could it help save the planet? So the conspiracy theory part is the significant detail here. And we have Simon King, a lead weather presenter with the BBC, saying, if we can't control rising global temperatures by drastically cutting carbon emissions, could something called geoengineering be a way to cool the planet? So from what he says, the interesting detail, of course, is to point out that if he's saying rising global temperatures, which of course is highly debatable in the first place, but if that can't be controlled by drastically cutting carbon emissions, then how is he suggesting that anthropogenic activity in the first place is indeed increasing the world's temperatures? But nonetheless, he goes on, or at least the article goes on, with yet another rather childish diagram of how geoengineering could cool the atmosphere. And I would say that the purpose of this is just to cement in the brains of those that watch this the idea that this could be done with technologies, with infrastructure that already exists. So we see an aircraft and a ship. We talk about stratospheric aerosol injection, releasing tiny particles to reflect solar radiation back to space. And again, marine cloud brightening, which we've talked about in the past. So the idea, sorry, Mike.
We shouldn't worry because it's not to scale.
Indeed, it's not to scale, no. So I'm not sure which bit should be bigger or smaller. But since the entire scientific construct, there's a lot of closer scrutiny. It could take a while to work that out. But so the idea here seems to be very much to propagandize the notion that, first of all, the planet needs saving, but secondly, that it could be done in a relatively straightforward manner, and of course, that it is entirely necessary. But we come back to this idea of conspiracy theory. So here we see some geoengineering ideas include reflecting sunlight back out to space to cool the Earth, of course, in the right way. And then to demonstrate the absolute futility of some of these projects, which of course suck up enormous amounts of money and public attention, the most advanced area of this is direct air carbon capture with small-scale facilities in operation across Europe, US and Canada. And just to highlight the insignificance of this, they say that they currently remove around 10,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide a year, meaning it would need to massively scale up to make any difference to the roughly 35 billion tonnes we emit globally. So without the assistance of a calculator, I think we can see that it's utterly pointless. And yet people are having it rammed down their throats as something they must believe is possible and worth doing. They go on. The Natural Environment Research Council has invited applications for a 10.5 million fund. And this is to assess whether the negative impacts of the technique are greater than the damage that would be caused by climate change. Of course, hypothesis upon shaky hypothesis. And in particular, solar radiation management being treated with caution. The UK government hasn't deployed the techniques and has no plans to do so. However, they are investing, which begs the question, how much longer are they going to continue to tell us that they are investing in various forms of technology that they have absolutely no intention of deploying? Why would they do that? So we look at something that the University of Exeter was involved in last year, the Department of Atmospheric and Climate Science at the University of Washington, marine cloud brightening, which I spoke about on the 17th of April on the news then. And just to confirm, the UKRI grant of over around £3.5 million to model environmental responses to solar radiation management. Of course, modelling being the key word, so it could be wildly inaccurate, like a lot of them have been. If you want to keep an eye on this sort of thing, I can point you towards Geoengineering which has a mapping tool that shows you all the live theoretical and indeed practical projects that are going on all over the world.
And we should make a point that website is a pro climate change.
Yes, exactly. It absolutely is. And so this is the fundamental difference, particularly within the United Kingdom. This is being talked about as though it is purely hypothetical, whereas of course there are other parts of the world where they openly declare that they are trying to modify the weather. So we'll just go back to the slide that I put on screen and we talk about the language. So you may remember that UK Column attended the Sounds Beautiful Festival in Dorset a few weeks ago, and this was written up by a journalist in the Times as being Glastonbury for conspiracy theorists. And the reason I use this language is that it recurs and it brings one back to the Prevent guidance, which is the sort of anti-extremism, anti-terrorism project. And they say the aim of Prevent is to stop people from becoming terrorists or supporting terrorism. And within that text, they talk about terrorist ideology being a set of beliefs which has several concepts or tools that include narrative, propaganda, grievances, and conspiracy theory. So there's a link here between people who might dismiss either climate change or geoengineering as a conspiracy theory being linked to terrorism. And this indeed comes back to what the United Nations were teaching in a module in 2018 on international terrorism. And it's a very significant detail because it goes back to the coining of the term terrorism, going back to the reign of terror in France and the French Revolution between 1793 to 94, during which the revolutionary government directed violence and harsh measures against citizens suspected of being enemies of the revolution. And here we are again with the updated definition of extremism, particularly there, item 2, talking about undermining or overturning or replacing the UK's system of liberal parliamentary democracy and democratic rights. So it looks very much like we are getting ever closer to the original definition of terrorism. And in fact, I would encourage you to go and read the definition of terrorism as per the Terrorism Act 2000 and consider what the government did in 2020 and what they're trying to do now. But it seems to me that the fallout from the hypothesis that, first of all, climate change is actually a genuine thing and that it is being affected by the activities of mankind and not indeed just a natural process, if indeed it is occurring, a natural process that the world will undergo constantly. But it's really to suggest that people who don't believe the narrative version of events are conspiracy theorists and that they are wrong, and therefore to use the trigger terminology of conspiracy theorist is at once separating people along that line, but also it's bouncing people into a position of knowing that they have to believe a certain thing because they've been told that the opposite is a conspiracy theory, which is why geoengineering is such a sort of a volatile subject to be dealing with, because it does, if carried out, of course, it does affect the way in which the climate could be affected in a very, very negative way. Mike, I'm sure you've got many a thought on this, which perhaps might come out in extra or now.
Well, we'll keep it for extra, I think,
Yeah.
and yes, so we'll keep that for then. Okay, let's move on. If you like what the UK Column does, you would like to support us, support.ukcolumn.org is the place to go. £5 a month is what it costs to become a member, and we do need your support. We want to say thank you once again to everybody that is supporting us this way. That's what keeps us going. If you can't do that, or in any case, do share our material, because we are censored by the algorithms. The latest platform we have no access to is facebook.com. Share material you find on ukcolumn.org and ukcolumnextracts.co.uk in particular. There's also a Telegram channel as well as the BitChute and Odyssey channels as well. If you'd like to pick something up at the UK Column shop, of course, that helps us very much too, and that would be appreciated. And as we've mentioned, do pick up a copy if you haven't got one yet of Your Life in Their Hands. I'm going to say thank you very much to Christopher at LSB Productions on YouTube for highlighting this piece of work and giving it a very good description, a very good review. Thank you. The word was escaping me for a second. So thank you to Christopher for that. That has helped a lot. Now, yesterday you did the interview with Edward Bartlett on SAVE.
Yes, exactly. And Edward is a fascinating person to listen to because his knowledge is very deep on effectively the sort of neo-Marxism, but also the legal and medical side of transitioning, gender transitioning, particularly where surgery is concerned, and how that is dealt with in terms of the legal battle against people who have effectively been put in a position where they have not had informed consent to the surgery that they've undergone. So I really would encourage you to listen to that to understand exactly what can be done to counter this movement.
And share it. And tomorrow at 1 p.m, an interview with Joy Warren, who's speaking about Fluoridation. Thank you. Consultation ending at the end of the month, so that will go out tomorrow at 1 p.m. Join us for that. Another reminder of the date for your diary: 19th of October, 2024. That's a Saturday at a venue in Bristol. We will let you know more details very, very soon.
Then we've got an exhibition called Died Suddenly, an art exhibition, which is being organised by Jake Fern. I've updated his email address, jakehfern@yahoo.co.uk, or indeed to look at his website, jakefern.co.uk. But it's to be in London in November, and he'd be grateful for any support, or indeed anyone who has connections to somebody who may have died suddenly, and to put the focus back on the enormous issue of excess deaths. So please get in touch with Jake about that.
Okay, thank you.